The world's richest man is betting on you losing your job. That is the covert confession hidden in this legal document, the prospectus for the IPO of his AI company, misleadingly called SpaceX, because AI, not rocket ships, is almost all of its business. Musk claims AI will sell $22.7 trillion of enterprise software every year. And there is only one place where this can ultimately come from: your salary. And not just yours, by the way. It is the salary of every white-collar employee on this planet. Everyone loses their job. I did the math that Musk's bankers and every AI evangelist in the world hopes you won't do. I went through his own filings, the financial statements of the Forbes Global 2000 companies, the wage estimates made by the ILO and other global organizations, and there are three scary stories buried in that dry data. First, why the only way Musk's numbers work is if your company sacks you. Second, why every software company that is not directly AI has to die along with you. And three, if the AI market is really that huge, then not just white-collar professionals, but millions of entrepreneurs will also go bankrupt, bringing the world economy to an absolute standstill. And at the very end, I will show you where this magic number of 22.7 trillion was actually lifted from, because it was not calculated. It was, now as I said, SpaceX's IPO filings say the total addressable market, or TAM, for enterprise applications is $22.7 trillion. According to the documents, this number excludes the Chinese and Russian markets. Remember this fact because it is going to be important for our math later on. Inflated TAMs are an old IPO trick. WeWork told investors its market was $1.6 trillion while collecting just $3 billion in revenue. Uber's prospectus conjured up $12.3 trillion, became a business school case study in how to mislead investors. Musk has simply done what Musk always does. He has taken the existing scam and just multiplied it by 10. But let us assume he is right. Let us take him at his word. Now, where will AI companies get this $22.7 trillion of enterprise revenue from? Enter private companies and governments who will be expected to buy the AI products from the AI companies and hand over the cash. But what about the corporates now? They have spent the money to save costs, right? So they need more value than they spent to make it worth their while. Where will that money come from? The answer to that lies in what the AI agents will be used for, or more precisely, what they will replace. And we all know what that answer is, by the way. You and me. White-collar workers or people who earn a living by selling their mental labor, what I call the laptop class, who will basically be asked to go. The International Labour Organization, the ILO, identifies 4 occupational groups here: managers, professionals, technicians, and clerks. I suspect most of you watching this video right now would fall into one of these categories. And these are the most vulnerable to being replaced by AI. Corporates will only use AI if they can get rid of these white-collar workers. So, how much does this laptop class, to which most of us belong, cost corporates in terms of salaries and wages? Here's the math. The IMF says the world's GDP this year is going to be about $126 trillion. Remove China and Russia from this, since Musk's AI market excludes them, and you're left with roughly $104 trillion. The total global wage bill, which includes blue-collar workers and people who are self-employed, ranges around half of that, between $50 to $55 trillion. Now, white-collar workers, even though small in number, get paid much more. So the total salary bill across the world would be between $20 to $25 trillion. Let's take the midpoint and say it is $22.5 trillion. If corporates and governments are expected to spend big money on enterprise AI, surely they will only do that if they save a lot of money as well, right? Now, switching to AI hasn't turned out to be that easy. Ask Klarna, the Swedish fintech giant. Just last year, its CEO boasted that their AI chatbot was doing the work of more than 850 employees. The company froze hiring, it became the poster child of the AI revolution, and then customer satisfaction collapsed. By last year, the same CEO was publicly admitting that they went too far and Klarna began quietly rehiring humans. Klarna is not the exception, it is the pattern. Here's the current state of affairs of AI adoption in the world. An MIT study shows that 95% of companies that adopted AI didn't see any impact on their bottom lines. And that was after they had spent $30 to $40 billion on their AI initiatives. PwC's study is more positive, but even there, out of the businesses that introduced AI systems, only 24% saw any meaningful impact on their profits. A McKinsey study said that less than 10% of companies had successfully integrated AI into their operations, and Gartner's recent report predicts that 40% of companies will be forced to quietly reduce their dependence on AI by next year, because the AI agents simply haven't delivered on their promise. So despite evidence of all this friction, let me be very generous to Musk. Let me assume AI starts working perfectly and companies demand only a modest return. Just let's say 20% more value than what they pay. Even in that charitable case, if they have to pay $22.7 trillion for enterprise AI, they need to get at least $27 trillion worth of savings from using the AI agents. Obviously, the bulk of that will have to come from savings on white-collar salaries. Go back to that number I calculated earlier. The total white-collar salary bill in the entire world is roughly $22.5 trillion. So all of it will have to go for companies and governments to be able to spend $22.7 trillion on enterprise AI. In other words, the TAM of enterprise AI, as I said right at the beginning, is practically the same as the total salary paid to each and every white-collar worker in the world. But Musk's market doesn't just need every white-collar salary, it needs more than all of that before a single company can get value out of AI by saving money. So if Musk or other AI evangelists like him, if all the tech oligarchs are right, then every white-collar worker in the world must lose their job. But as we saw, even that won't do it, because enterprises and governments would have to get at least $27 trillion worth of value if they spend $22.7 trillion on AI. The rest would have to come from savings on their IT expenditure. And that brings me to scary story number 2, the complete decimation of the IT industry. Every software and IT services company that isn't directly building AI will have to go. What are the actual numbers here? Gartner estimates that the total global IT spending this year will be between $6.15 and $6.31 trillion. I will take the average of that, around $6.2 trillion. We have to now remove the spend by China and Russia because Musk's estimates exclude these two big economies. That will be 10 to 12% less. So we are left with about $5.5 trillion to be spent on IT by the rest of the world this year. But wait, look closer at that $5.5 trillion. Nearly a third of every IT budget is the salaries of IT staff, the techies. The white-collar workers we've already sacked. It's scary story number 1. Now you cannot kill the same person twice, right? So remove them from IT spends. And what remains is about $3.7 trillion of software, hardware, and services market. Now remember, to reach that 27 trillion of value over and above the 22.5 trillion saved by sacking every white-collar worker in the world, enterprises still need to find another 4.5 trillion. So even cutting the entire IT budget and replacing it with AI doesn't match it. You could cancel every software license, every SaaS subscription, every IT services contract on the planet, shut down the entire non-AI technology industry to its last invoice, and you would still fall short. So one of the world's biggest employers, the IT industry, doesn't just have to shrink, it has to completely die, along with all of us white-collar workers. And this entire massacre still cannot pay Musk's bill. No wonder then tech employees are the first in the crosshairs of AI, both because the IT industry could end up being wiped out by it, but also because techies are white-collar workers who are among the most vulnerable to AI-related cost cutting. But if all this happens, what does that mean for the world economy? A single word: apocalypse. And here's why. The ILO says there are about 1.8 billion workers in the world who get paid salaries and wages. Out of this, not more than a quarter are white-collar professionals. That's about 450 million people across the world. Of course, they are not spread equally across the world. The USA has a very high proportion, about 100 million white-collar workers, while India has only 30 to 35 million, despite a huge population. But we white-collar workers account for a big proportion of the world's consumption. We are the people who buy most of the world's soaps, shampoos, toothpastes, detergents, potato chips, colas, biscuits, processed cheese, you name it, we buy it. We, the world's white-collar laptop class, also sustain the sales of laptops, of course, and also mobile phones, washing machines, microwave ovens, cars, and even homes. We eat out at restaurants, go to movies, take vacations. We send our kids to the better schools and colleges. And we are the backbone of the retail, banking, and credit card industries. Without us, no consumer-facing business can survive. And that's a death knell, not just for big enterprises, but also for small businesses. From restaurants and shop owners to interior decorators and fashion designers, and even the self-employed workers who live off trade skills like plumbers, electricians, tailors. Each and every one of them will see their markets collapse. So if white-collar workers get wiped out, so will most of the world's consumer-facing businesses that depend on them. Now, consumption by households accounts for roughly 55 to 60% of global GDP. Consumption by white-collar workers and their employees will not be less than 1/4 of that amount, or roughly 15% of global GDP. If we stop earning, we will also stop consuming. The direct impact of that alone will be catastrophic. Add to that the multiplier effect of the impact on consumer businesses, the small entrepreneurs, and even blue-collar workers who depend on us. The net impact will be apocalyptic. So that brings us back full circle to the original promise of that fabulous TAM of enterprise AI. If consumer-facing businesses are likely to see a massive drop in their revenues thanks to the mass job losses among the laptop class, if small businesses are likely to get wiped out, then surely the total addressable market for enterprise AI will also go down in the same proportion. After all, you can't sell cost-saving tech to companies that have gone out of business. That raises the obvious question. If the number is impossible, where did the 22.7 trillion even come from? Not from any model of the software market. The answer is buried in the filing itself. The Digital Cooperation Organization, which has estimated that the entire global digital economy will be worth $22.7 trillion. Every online purchase, every digital ad, every government website, everything digital on planet Earth. So SpaceX took a measure of all digital activity in the world, relabeled it as the addressable market for its own enterprise software. This number on which AI valuations are being built right now has literally been lifted from a third-party report. Now you might say that this automatically means AI companies and the hyperscalers are doomed, since their claims of market size are based on ridiculous assumptions which can only come true if 1/3 of the world's economy collapses. But here's the bizarre reality. AI companies are B2B, or business to business enterprises, and in that they are in great company because nearly 2/3 of the world's enterprise revenues come from B2B players who provide raw materials, equipment, and services to other businesses. They operate at an arm's length from the final consumer, and that allows them to transact among themselves without ever coming face to face with us. So there is a huge lag between the time when consumer faces businesses are hit by a demand shortage from people like us and the time when they stop buying machines and inputs from the B2B companies. This lag in business cycles between those who make things for us to buy and those who supply inputs to consumer businesses can extend up to several months or even years. The lag can get even longer when friendly governments hand out lucrative contracts, discounted land, and tax benefits to these B2B companies, which all the tech oligarchs are brilliant at sucking out from governments. That is why, by the time the world gets to feel the recessionary impact of AI, big tech would have already sold billions of dollars worth of products, attracted trillions of dollars of investment, and replaced millions of white-collar employees across the world. This is also the reason why big tech stocks are unlikely to crash in the near future, despite the fact that they're running out of cash and also building up scary amounts of debt. I've explained this mechanism in detail in this video on your screen. It tells you why the bubble that's building up in the world of artificial intelligence is likely to take you and me down way before it actually bursts and kills the big tech companies.